INFOWARSLife.com. That's INFOWARSLife.com.
I began to get into iodine a few years ago because it was helping me and my family so much get healthy and detoxify. I believe our research is conclusive. This is the best iodine out there. And I know this for a fact. Nobody else has got iodine based on these pure crystals, ladies and gentlemen. For a limited time, experience the ancient power of Survival Shield X2. Take advantage of this unprecedented 30% off Super Detox Special at InfoWarsLife.com.
With another presidential election season just around the corner, I thought it was time to dust off this oldie but a goodie from the vault. As I was looking around on the web just the other day, my Google algorithm popped this up in the sidebar and I just had to get it. And here it is, the Hillary Clinton Nutcracker. As you can see on the box, it says it has stainless steel thighs and cracks the toughest nuts. Is America ready for this nutcracker, it asks, and you can go to HillaryNutcracker.com to find out more. But it's very interesting. Pulled it out, you can see it's got the stainless steel thighs right there, but there's some excellent quotes on the back, which I'll go ahead and read now. The directions, as President Bush likes to say, you don't have to be a rocket surgeon to use it. You just place the nut between the legs and squeeze, much like Hillary herself has been known to do. Heard on the street, I can feel Bill's pain, says Barack Obama. I guess the battle against the vast right-wing nut conspiracy is still on. That's from Dick Cheney. Why does Hillary get to have all the fun, says Nancy Pelosi. Hillary Nutcracker, that's redundant, from John McCain. I'd be getting nervous if I was one of those nut jobs, Kim Jong-il. I can feel the squeeze from 50 feet away, says Rudy Giuliani, and no comment from Bill Clinton. So there you go, the Hillary Nutcracker. Very interesting piece of Americana, but you know what's different about this one than most others you'll find on the web? This one actually talks, and it sounds a lot like Hillary. Just listen.
I'm Hillary Clinton, and I approve this message.
So Hillary, what do you like to do to terrorists?
Let us bomb these places.
Hillary, what do you think about the disclosures that the Pentagon has been giving tons and tons of heavy armor and weaponry to police departments around the country?
Sometimes military action is necessary.
What are your thoughts on Edward Snowden?
Edward Snowden broke our laws.
But what about all this continued NSA surveillance? Is there anything we could do about that?
I think it would be shocking to most people if the United States stopped gathering information. That's just not the way the real world works.
Well, Hillary, what does your husband Bill think about NSA surveillance?
Wait, you want me to tell you what my husband thinks? So you ask my opinion, I will tell you my opinion. I'm not going to be channeling my husband.
Do you have any jokes?
I will try to preserve my reputation as being, somewhat humorless and jokeless by not trying to tell one.
Now, if you're going to be running for president, you're going to have to campaign in the South. What are you going to be saying to all those people down there below the Mason-Dixon line?
I don't feel no ways tired. I come too far from where I started from.
All right, now I'm going to get serious. How do you feel about those 4 Americans that were killed in Benghazi?
What difference at this point does it make?
I thought you would say that. So why do we give those terrorists the heat-seeking missiles?
It's a constant balancing. What do we do? How far do we go?
But isn't arming terrorists bad?
The people we are fighting today, we funded 20 years ago.
Don't you think that's a bit hypocritical?
This is an inherent contradiction.
Now, Hillary, what about all the civilian deaths with drones? Is there anything we can do about that?
The numbers about potential civilian casualties, I take with a somewhat big grain of salt.
What do you think about Democrats who've been distancing themselves from Jonathan Gruber's remarks when they were praising him in the past?
What difference at this point does it make?
And what was that you said when you heard Colonel Gaddafi had been killed?
We came, we saw, he died.
Do you have anything else to say to the American people before you run for president?
But we came out of the White House not only dead broke, but in debt.
Well, as you can see, the Hillary Nutcracker is certainly full of more than just nuts. She's full of a lot of BS. But those stainless steel thighs are definitely a force to be reckoned with. Yeah, we're definitely going to put this one back in the vault where it belongs. So we hope Hillary doesn't run for president again. But I hope you enjoyed this little presentation of just looking back at some of the amazing things Hillary Clinton has had to say about certain events in the world. This is Rob Dew with InfoWars Nightly News. And if you are watching this on YouTube, please consider becoming a member of PrisonPlanet.tv. You can now share your username and password with up to 20 people. Instead of 11, we've now upgraded it to 20. So be sure you get your membership today.
We are ending the war in Iraq. The president did close Guantanamo.
I'm Hillary Clinton, and I approve this message.
From the water table to our soils to the atmosphere itself, our world is becoming more and more toxic each and every day. But it's not just the air outside that's toxic. Indoor air has been shown to have 2 to 5 times higher concentrations of pollutants than even outdoor air. And most Americans spend 90% of their time inside using toxic chemicals within their homes. There are more than 42 million smokers in the United States. Well over 1,000 types of mold and mildew linked to numerous conditions. And don't forget the fact that 6 million Americans live with pets they're allergic to as well. When I began to research these statistics, it was clear to me it was time to start cleansing my lungs in order to combat the toxic environment that we cannot escape but that we can fight back against. Made with organic and wild cultivated herbs and manufactured in the USA, the new InfoWars Life Lung Cleanse is here in a convenient spray bottle that can be brought with you throughout any toxic environment. Now available exclusively at InfoWarsLife.com or by calling toll-free 888-253-3139.
Another major health threat, this one in Toledo, Ohio, where everybody in the entire city has been told not to drink the water.
Ohio's governor declaring a state of emergency.
Did you know that the average person uses about 80 to 100 gallons of water at home every single day? If there's a water emergency, will you be prepared?
Panicked residents forming long lines throughout the day.
We're here at a supermarket in Toledo. You can see the shelves empty where water once was.
To stay safe and healthy during a crisis, you must have access to safe, clean water. Water which will not be available at your local grocery store.
There's a mad dash on right now to stock up on supplies.
The ProPure Pro 1 G2.0 water filtration system is a must-have for every modern, independently minded household. Protect your family's safety during an emergency. Go to InfoWarsStore.com today to purchase your ProPure Pro 1 G2.0 water filtration system or call 1-888-253-3139.
Today I'm going to be speaking with Anthony Freda. He is an internationally recognized political artist and illustrator. His work has been featured in Time Magazine, The New Yorker, The New York Times, and now he can add another win to his long list of accomplishments. Freda's piece, Questions, was recently acquired by the National September 11th Memorial and Museum. His piece is the only artifact in the entire collection there that actually questions the official narrative of 9/11. So Anthony, welcome back to the show. It's great to have you. So how did you do it? How did you convince the curators of the 9/11 Museum to acquire this artwork when the whole museum is clearly a shrine to the official narrative?
Well, it's great to be here, Leanne, and thank you for the opportunity to explain this story. It's kind of a crazy story. I approached the museum because I just had this idea that the whole thing is a shrine to the official story, and I approached them saying, you can't have a 9/11 museum without the truth movement being represented in some way. I mean, it's millions of people, it's a huge, movement. You can't just ignore, the multitude of issues and evidence and serious people who are questioning the official narrative, and it needs to be represented in some way. So I approached them with an email, fully expecting that they would just say thank you, but no thank you, or completely ignore me. And to my shock, but delight, they agreed with me, and they sent me back an email saying, we'd like to put your piece into the selection process, and went through a series of internal committees, and it has been acquired to be part of the permanent collection. It will be the first and only piece in the collection that questions the official narrative. So it's kind of a big deal from, their perspective and from the Truth Movement's perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we have the video that you provided where you're actually speaking there with the curators of the museum, explaining your piece to us. So how did you go about explaining that to them?
Well, that was kind of surreal. I mean, I'm in a 9/11 museum talking 9/11 truth to people who are, their job is to create this monument to the official narrative. So there's this built-in irony to it and this discrepancy that I still can't figure out. I don't know why they let me in there, but maybe they didn't know who they're dealing with. I don't know. But we'll see. We'll see what they do with it. Everybody says they're going to hide it or shelve it. Like you remember in, Raiders of the Lost Ark, they have a giant warehouse where they put everything. Or they're, put it in the urinal or something. I don't know. But
yeah, that was kind of my question, is where exactly are they going to be displaying this piece so that people can come into the museum? Obviously, some of the family members or some people, I mean, do you think that they're afraid people might be offended by it, or did they seem to agree with the piece, or what was their response?
They thought they were grateful to have it. They said this is a unique acquisition. And they said this is they're taking like a tiny, putting a toe in the water into the Truth Movement, because I think they realize that you can't just completely ignore it, act like it's not, a phenomenon. It's a global phenomenon. There's millions of people who are questioning these things. So it's not just they can't just, allocate it to some tiny little fringe group. So they did, to their credit, acknowledge that we got to represent it some way. So I think the fact that this piece was published in the Village Voice and it had some sort of journalistic historical tie-in to the event, that they thought it might be an appropriate way to kind of just test the waters a little bit. So I mean, I'm trying to get inside their head. I don't know. I asked them straight out, "You can have a 9/11 truth section." They said, "No, there'll be no truth section." But they're happy to have this piece. So it's all, I didn't really get a straight answer for them exactly how they're going to display it, to answer your question.
Yeah, and I know you said in the original letter that you sent to the museum, you said, asking questions is a fundamental American tradition that has sadly been on the wane of late, to all of our detriment. You go on to discuss a lot of the false pretexts that brought us into the war and sort of tying that into this piece, and basically saying dissent is the highest form of patriotism, especially in a time of universal deceit, and it's the duty of the artist to go where conscience takes him without regard to political correctness. So obviously that's very powerful. Do you think that that kind of, you challenging them was something that prompted them to take on this challenge of bringing in a dissenting voice?
I think I might have swayed them because I was obviously passionate about these issues, but at the same time not too snarky or disrespectful. I understand what position they're coming from. You got a museum. George Bush is on the board of this museum. I mean, this is the official shrine, as we say, to this story. So, and it's the biggest story of this century. So. It needs to have all voices represented, I think, because it's impacted so many lives. And I tried to go about, if you watch the video, Behind Truth Art, it's a film by John Masseria, documenting the process, you'll see that I tried to be respectful and humble. I mean, I'm in their museum. They invited me there. And that was surreal about it, talking about 9/11 truth in the museum and laying out the case, through my artwork, being able to explain it, these things that I learned from friends of mine, like my friend Dan Zollinger introduced me to you guys originally, and it's been a long journey ever since.
Yeah, and you mentioned Bush being on the board. He's actually featured within questions within the piece, as well as JFK. You talked to the curators there about some of the symbolism within this piece, including the JFK, and then you get into Operation Northwoods. You're basically taking them into the historical, the history of Black Ops operations there. I mean, that's very surreal. What was their response to the way that you were portraying Bush and others? Well, it was a great opportunity to talk about these issues in their hallowed halls and do it in a way, like I say, that was respectful and I hope, convincing to them. But at the end of the day, they did say to me,
we love that you are expressing these ideas. We don't agree with any of them, but we're happy to have this piece of museum. So